pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We don't have any approval of minutes this evening. Citizens' time. Is there anybody here who is not on our agenda who would like to speak to this board? Nobody here. Thank you. Chairman's report. Before we begin, I just want a quick moment of silence. A longtime Burlington resident, a historian, archaeologist, explorer, and geologist passed away. He was a long-time chairman and member of our historical commission, and that was Norman Bigart. Just a quick moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Just to let you know, there will be a celebration of his life at the Grandview Farm on June the 19th, Wednesday, June the 19th from 4 to 8. Thank you very much. We have a very long agenda this evening. The first one we're going to take is out of order.
You're going to do 108 first.
108, okay. Applications. Application for approval of definitive subdivision 108 Muller Road.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thomas Murphy, I represent the applicant for the subdivision at 108 Muller Road. This has been pending for quite a while. It came before this board 2 months ago. One might recall, it's creating a buildable lot off of 108 Muller Road. There were two ways of accessing this particular property. One was an existing road driveway coming from Muller Road, which is what the original hope for my client was going to be for access. So that was the access that this board looked at when you commented on the plan back, I think it was in March. As we've gone through the process and with what input and whatnot, it now appears that the access is going to come off of Cormier Road, and that is going to be a driveway accessing a single-family home that will be built. And so because that driveway is now going to be paved, I had presented to this board that if we changed access and/or had to pave the right-of-way, we'd come back before. So that's basically, I'm here tonight just to kind of bring you up to date. I still have some information that I owe to staff before I think you guys can properly review the application, specifically the drainage calculations from the engineer. I did give Christine a copy of the new modified plan that shows the new lot lines. And as soon as I get the drainage calcs in, I will also forward those and then come back before you after you've had an opportunity to review that. So I just wanted to bring the board up to date because I was going to be here on 336 Cambridge Street anyway.
Thank you very much. I visited the site along with our Director of Public Health. I think myself and the subcommittee member has seen this many times. Clearly, they're not ready yet, so I'd like a motion to continue this.
Mr. Chair, I propose that the board continues its application pending review of the final site design and drainage calculations.
Second.
I have a motion, second. Any discussion? Just that the applicant has extended the review time for the application to June the 28th, so we have time. If there's no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Since Mr. Murphy is a member of our school committee and needs to get to that meeting, I would like a motion to take.
This is in order.
It is in order.
It is in order. I'm sorry, you don't have to do that, Mr. Murphy. That's great. Application for approval of a special permit, 336 Cambridge Street. Do you want to speak to that? And then we have a report of the subcommittee.
Sure. This is an existing non-conforming structure located at 336 Cambridge Street. The current building dates back to the 1800s and has 3 residential apartments and 1 commercial space. The applicant has proposed to add some minimal square footage to the residential area of the building. and add an enclosed staircase at the back of the building. They are also adding some stormwater management. Currently, all stormwater sheet flows either off the front of the property onto Cambridge Street or off the back of the property onto an adjacent lot and wetlands. The proposed stormwater will be conveyed from the paved area in 2 swales, which will then enter a stone-filled basin that will do some infiltration of the stormwater, and has been designed to contain a 100-year storm event without holding standing water.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Does this coming up now have anything to do with what we have been talking about with relatively abutting property recently?
Not really. The other budding property came to you with a couple of different proposals for stormwater management, but this is just to control a little bit, just so that more isn't contributed to that abutting property.
So there is a relationship, or?
Yeah, so this property sits in front of,
I know exactly where the property
Yeah.
is. I was wondering if the fact that we're entertaining this now has anything to do with.
I think it was owned prior to, by the
Connection.
same, and then they split it.
It was commonly owned
Right.
previously, but when the developer who currently owns the back, or the larger parcel, bought it last year, he carved this portion off and sold it, and my client purchased
Okay.
just the old house last year.
Okay, so it just happens to be coincidence, it's not, got it.
yes.
Thank you.
We have looked at this site, the subcommittee looked at this site. Would you like to?
Yeah, it's real brief. I mean, there's, I think the really good parts about this is that they're keeping the historical building there intact, which is a historical building. We met with Mr. Murphy, I think about a week or so ago. And there is very little increase in impervious surface, and that is being, increase is being handled by the swale, or the stone in the back. So there's no minimal impact here at all. And in fact, I think they're gonna clean up the site real nicely, so.
Yeah, they'll do a fair amount of site work. It's not a very attractive site right now.
Right.
It's mostly all pavement. Actually, the impervious surface is being reduced. The engineer looked at it, and it's a small reduction in.
So,
The
and we,
whole front yard is basically now paved.
Yeah.
That's gonna be torn off. It's gonna be grassed in the front, and there'll be a new parking area. So at the end of the day, I think it's gonna be a very nice project for the town. It's a historical house, as Mr. McSweeney said. It'll be fixed up, and the site will look a lot better than it is now. We're putting some foliage in for the abutter, to screen the abutter property, and there's gonna be other site improvements, so we think it's a good project.
and I think, there were some concerns from the abutting neighbors on the other, the other property that you'd mentioned before. And I think the stone in the back will more than take care of
There's
it.
no sidewalk there, is there?
That's gonna be part of the planning board approval. We're back before the planning board.
Yeah, 'cause
next-
there is no sidewalk. Well, actually, there is. Well, there's
Currently,
an area.
there's kind of a,
I think it's just a paved driveway.
Yeah.
paved driveway that goes out to a kind of ratty-looking curb. It's mostly, so all of that's gonna be improved as part of the planning board approval, which we were just waiting on this board's comments before they can finalize things next Thursday.
But we were sure that the drainage was going to be going back.
Correct. There are 8 conditions. Have you seen those 8
I
conditions?
have
Mr.
reviewed
Murphy?
those, my client is fine with all of them.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the application for special permit 336 Cambridge Street.
Second.
I have a motion and I have seconds. Is there any other discussion? Just that we spent a lot of time with this, and I think this is probably the best we can do here at this site and keep the 1850-year-old, the house from 1850, and also control some of the runoff. I have a motion and I have a second.
Was the subcommittee was 2-0 in favor?
2-0.
0 in favor. Motion is second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the
Sure,
board.
go to your school committee meeting.
Sign this.
Go ahead.
I did- yeah.
Renewal of RDNA permits, Leahy Hospital and Medical,
Mr.
So we're
Chairman,
gonna
do
take
you want to take
207 out of order?
207,
It's 207.
the stormwater management,
Yeah,
210.
no, 207 Cambridge Street.
207.
Oh, 207 Cambridge, I'm sorry.
Well, I expected that to be quite a long discussion, don't you?
207?
207, the stormwater management, 207 Cambridge Street, or not?
I don't think so.
Okay, we'll do 207, a motion to take 207.
So moved.
Second.
A motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Thank you very much for coming.
Evening.
My name is Mo Santangelo, I'm the property manager at the site. This is Mark Papico, who's the contractor. And we're basically asking your approval to maintain the water table. It's a very high, that property right now. So Mark, divulge a little bit more as far as what we're planning on doing.
So we've been involved with the Mass DOT during the winter for water runoff. This freezes on to the sidewalk. In the long term, well, it's always been water that comes out of the hill behind the property. So we want to try and contain it now. And to go through the paperwork of doing it, it needs to be controlled on the site with a retention pond and a catch basin. But
I don't think I've ever seen it as bad as it was this winter. I mean, to the point where I would drive by, I mean, obviously we were involved, but something happened at a water main break or something? It was pretty significant.
and it's literally all, we actually dug pits in the back of the property, and we're pumping them out to control it. It literally just comes right out of the hill, so we want to control it, obviously, to control the problem, but to go through the proper ways of doing it. Christine's been out on the site, and there's nothing being pumped out of the building, it's literally all just groundwater, and it's actually coming from, in a sense, the neighbor's properties, but it's a very large hill.
I have received so many complaints, and I've seen it. And I think the picture here, and if you see the picture of the ice skating rink on Cambridge Street, you realize how bad it is. So, would you like to say something about this, what they're going to be doing?
Sure. So just to add on what the applicant has said here, they are proposing to install a retention basin and tie underground into the existing catch basin in Cambridge Street, which is Route 3A, obviously. And to do that, they need Mass DOT approval for that street opening and that connection. They have made several attempts to obtain Mass DOT approval, and some of those correspondence are in the paperwork that you have in your books. And maybe you could just give I guess to date, you don't have approval?
No, the latest update is that there's an application process that we need to complete. We wanted to get in front of you guys first, and then get some feedback from you, and then follow the next step and get the approval from the Mass DOT. That was our strategy.
So can we talk about, and I know this is gonna sound kind of probably stupid, but can you talk about retention pond? I mean, just the sound of that, right? So where are you putting it, and what is it how's it gonna operate and function?
So a retention pond on the side of the building, catching everything before it's hitting the asphalt, contained with a berm that we were gonna plant. It's,
So it's an actual pond that's gonna have standing water in it?
yeah, we're gonna try and keep as much on. So I went over like the unofficial of it, meeting with a couple of the gentlemen from the DOT, was catching it in place and having an overflow, so that some of it can be absorbed. The problem is once it hits that asphalt, it's going right across, and it's just a mud pit over there right now. So to try and build a berm, to create a retention pond, to see if we can disperse as much as possible before it goes into the overflow, which would tie into the catch basin that already exists.
Now, I'm concerned. I know this is not in a residential area, so I have less concerns about, which we don't allow detention ponds in residential areas. But I'm trying to visualize this, and I have been for a few days. How deep is it gonna be?
Potentially, it's only probably 2 feet below grade because of building the berm, because it's all coming downhill there. So it's almost, the berm is gonna create the height in a sense to catch.
Well,
Mr. Chair, one of the concerns that we had is that we haven't seen any engineer plans for
Right.
this. So we asked them to come here to kind of give us a plan of when we might see those engineering plans. to kind of move forward, because we don't want to go into next winter with this being a problem again.
I mean, when I envisioned the site, so there is nothing, really nothing is done this is, in front of Burlington Auto Parts, there's that concrete, nothing as far as, I mean, I've been in this town forever, nothing has been done there. Is there a way to utilize that space for infiltration, as opposed to having a retention pond?
And I'm worried about the safety of the retention pond. There are children in that area. I'm worried about cars falling into retention ponds. We've had that happen in town.
That's why I want to propose doing a berm with plantings, so it would actually shut off that whole side from woods line to building, would be a raised berm that would be planted.
Do we have any plans whatsoever?
Not yet.
Well, yeah, let me add to that.
Jewelry's
We
place.
don't have site plans, engineering plans, we don't have the approval from the Mass DOT. So our goal is to connect to the state highway, so we didn't proceed with the engineer plans until we get the approval from the Mass DOT. If the Mass DOT doesn't approve, then we're at Plan B. We have to tie into that main drain in order to solve this problem.
I understand, and theoretically, I have no problem with, but we need to have some plans for this board to approve it. We can't approve it without any plans whatsoever. This is our only time that we get to have some input into this. And again, you could say to us, gee, we're gonna build a berm and we're gonna put plantings around it, and we need to understand what's going on there and is it safe or not. It's our purview to make sure not only will it work, but also is it safe. And I think that we understand that, and I understand it, but I think that we need something written up, whether it comes right after your approval or not, but we just can't go, I don't see us going ahead and approving
Yeah, I
this.
mean, I think our concern, like, is pretty obvious, right? Our concern is that we have a swimming pool on Cambridge Street, and then, we have mosquitoes, a potential safety hazard, and it's just, I don't know how deep this water is gonna be. You can't tell me how deep this water is going to be, and I understand that it's all groundwater, but unfortunately, it's on your property, or whoever owns the property, and it needs to be, managed, and I don't think that without some calculations and understanding of what is gonna be held in this pond, that we're comfortable approving this, for sure.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. What's the safeguard against that pond rising over its banks and creating the problem again?
So there's a catch basin in the pond that ties in, the overflow drains into the catch basin in the road.
And that'll be sufficient flow for the
So-
water to disappear fast?
It was in engineering plans.
Yeah, right.
So I've gone through all of the correct timelines and paths of dealing with the engineer and the surveyor and everything. They're very reluctant, in a sense, they're watching out for our best interests also. They're reluctant to do any final plans or surveying, and, they've said it to me, you're investing a lot of money not knowing if the DOT is even gonna say yes to anything this. And that's where we're kinda stuck in the middle of, we wanna present legit plans to you. They can design everything, but it all could be backfire in a sense on if the DOT says no, so it's,
I think we have to wait till the DOT, but
Well, so I do agree with that, but I mean, I think we need to look at, are there temporary solutions we can put, because we do have, we have the summer coming, and who knows how long it's gonna take to get approval, right? So if we sit here and say, come back to us after you get approval, we might be entering next winter and you can't fix it, right? So, and we have to talk about what potentially a temporary relief solution would be, if any. So are there other I guess my question is, are there other solutions we can look at, such as an underground storm management system, without having to go in front of the DEP or the DOT?
an underground storm management system would be in that asphalt area. One of the big things is the gas main is in that area. It cuts straight through that. It'd be something that we'd have to, contend with. But underground storm management in that area would be your only solution, because if it's a very narrow area between street and where it's just not enough area of absorption there.
So that's I mean, there is a Plan B, but we're really counting on Plan A, and that's the time.
I understand. So there is no timetable on this because we have no plan, is there? Except we need some type of relief.
So we didn't issue an order letter to them because they've been working with us, trying to solve the problem. Now we're, in the good weather, so we're not as worried about it as we would be as we're, moving into the winter time. So our concern is that they're not gonna get DOT approval before they can do this work. And then we'll have a nuisance problem again on Cambridge Street. this winter.
Well, and I would hate for them to even go down the path of getting DOT approval for only us to turn down, because the pond is gonna be 3 feet deep, right?
Right, and I'm wondering what Plan B is.
Well, I mean, like Mark said, Plan B would be that just not tying into the drain, maybe that.
The infiltrator style,
So one big
System.
basin?
it would be infiltrator style system under the asphalt.
But if it is groundwater, I'm sure your engineers talked to you about this. I mean, you have to make sure that it's going to infiltrate there. If it is groundwater and the groundwater is really high there, you're not gonna get any infiltration.
Right.
No, it's all, the grade change is, I've run a laser on before, I mean, you're probably talking a 5 to 6 foot grade change from front of building to rear, and it's literally just traveling down. So we did a small trench in one area along the bottom of the hill. The water comes right out of the side of the hill and just follows the trench. So like I said, there's not enough area for it to absorb, and it's just all basically gravity.
And we did treat it this winter as far as salting and sanding as well.
Yeah, I mean, the staff has been commending how much you've been working with us trying to get this resolved. So this is not blame on you, I just don't want you to go down a fix that's not gonna work and/or we're not gonna approve, right, so.
That's what our concern is that we go through all this, and then it's either the engineer's plan doesn't meet your specs, in a sense, or the DOT doesn't approve us, in a sense, in a time.
And this board hasn't approved a retention pond in years, or since I've been on the board, so, if you're going down a path that I think you're gonna have some
But we
issues.
do allow them.
We do allow them,
in
but we
commercial
haven't-
areas.
Yeah. I
Not
understand.
re-
I
commercial.
mean, you could expect that it had to have a guardrail and/or fence or
Yeah,
something like
something
that.
around it.
Yeah.
And I
Again, I still wouldn't be comfortable approving a
No.
10-foot pond, right, so, of water, and I don't know, is it 2 inches or is it
Yeah.
20
We
feet?
need to see pictures,
Yeah.
we need to see 25, 50-year storm calculations, we need all that kind of stuff.
I guess the best thing we can do right now is to continue this.
Yeah.
Continue this until you hear from DEP, not DEP, but Department of Transportation.
Yeah.
And then, do you have any timetable for that? When they will get back to you? Have you,
They kind of unofficially specified to me that you should probably have town's approval before we get involved. It's kind of like we're stuck in
What?
the middle
I don't think,
To do what?
for us to put in a system.
I don't think we can do that. Is there any way that we can send an email to the Department of Transportation?
That would be very helpful.
Sure.
I mean,
So basically, what they say to us is, okay, you guys want to do something,
So can we get engineering drawings and write-up as the assumption that you're tying into DOT, so that
Absolutely,
if,
yeah.
and then we can get maybe a subcommittee meeting together and meet for that, and then we can give you some opinions on whether it's gonna get approved or not.
We can definitely mediate with the state, at
Right.
least by saying, hey, we're here, we want to work with you, but we need to know what you're going to approve.
yeah, I think that we need to send them an email and
And stress the urgency.
can you provide them who you're speaking to? Or do you know
I
that?
have that.
You
I
have that. So why don't we continue, I'd like a motion to continue, it's what I'm hearing.
This is just a discussion.
It's just a discussion,
It's
it doesn't need a
discussion.
motion.
It's listed under, discussion. It's not even listed under anything, discussion. So why don't we do that? I understand that you live far away and you need to, but we'll just continue. I don't think we need a motion at all.
Nope.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Good night.
Now, we get back to permits. Renewal of RDNA permits, Leahy Hospital Medical Center.
Mr. Chairman, until June 30th, I'm an employee of Leahy. I'd like to recuse myself.
Please, thank you.
Until June 30th.
you like a cold drink? Want a cold drink? You want a cold drink?
Yeah, thanks.
No, I have one. Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much for having me. My name is Kim Rieger-Christ, and I'm the Chief Scientific Officer at Leahy Hospital Medical Center. And tonight I'm here as a representative of our Institutional Biosafety Committee as part of the request for the renewal of our recombinant DNA license. And so I just have a quick PowerPoint. If I could have the next slide, please. Thank you. So, just as an update, the laboratories have been at Leahy since 1997, and all of our laboratories are registered and licensed and compliant with both the NIH as well as the town of Burlington for the use of recombinant DNA technology. All of our laboratories meet the federal, state, and local regulations for storage and containment of and disposal of hazardous waste. We are also compliant with OSHA bloodborne pathogen standard, and all of our employees are trained for universal precautions. So you can see that all the laboratories either meet or exceed the BL2 level criteria according to the NIH guidelines. And we also had our laboratory inspections on April 30th, and there were no findings, no violations or deficiencies at that time. Next slide, please. So we do have two laboratories. The first one is the ENC Summerhays Cell and Molecular Biology Lab, and I'm the principal investigator of that laboratory. The goal of the lab is really to develop biomarkers that are that we want to aid the physicians in either diagnosing for prognosis or therapeutics for various different diseases. So what I included here this year are just 3 snippets from some of the work that we've published. So that you can see that we work in nerve regeneration, prostate cancer, and also bladder cancer. Next slide, please. The second lab is the Laboratory of Tissue Regeneration, and that is run by Dr. Li-Fai Guo out of the Department of Plastic Surgery. And most of his work is on wound healing and ways to improve wound healing. He has 2 upcoming publications that are in press, and you can see both of those are in wound healing and are involved around adipose-derived stem cells. So we have not had any incidents in the entire time, the 20 years that I've been there, and so we are requesting renewal of our permit.
Our environmental engineer, have you ever had any issues whatsoever?
No, I haven't.
And your recommendation is to?
Renew the permits.
Are there any questions? I have one question. Who is Robert Jurgen?
He is one of our community members.
And he's not appointed by this board, just Mr. Harrison, Ms. Jim Harrison?
Correct.
Correct. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, and for the record, my wife retired from Leahy Clinic, so now I can vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to renew the RDNA permit for Leahy Clinic.
Second.
If I have no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. Thank you so much for coming.
Very much.
Thanks for coming in tonight.
Wish you well.
Good night.
Shall we let him back in?
Yes, let him back in. Well, now we come to the 1, 2, 3, 4 chicken permits, and that will be coordinated by our associate health inspector, Samantha. The first one is 4 Mountain View Way, keeping of domestic animals, permit for 6 chickens. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Sophie Medikian, living in 4 Mountain View Way.
Could you please speak into the microphone?
So, my name is Sophie Medikian, and I live in 4 Mountain View Way. In Burlington, I was so interested to have chickens. So for a long time, now I got 6 of them. And I hope they're very happy. I don't know, they came from Board of Health. They saw this chickens, the place. We have very big yard, and they have nice coop in there with a lot of trees and roses. They're happy, I don't know. They told me we are very happy. I understand their languages. When they're laying egg, I know that they're happy.
Well, we do have pictures of the coop.
This is a
They
very
look
nice-
like happy chickens.
It is a nice coop, right?
That's a very nice.
It's got a roof on it, yeah. Is that a rooster?
No rooster.
That's a test question.
Samantha, would you please report?
Especially I wrote down that no rooster in the applications.
That's good, that's good.
I conducted my inspection, everything looked good. I didn't find any reason why you couldn't grant the permit tonight.
So the roost, the coop is a good distance from the, appropriate distance from the house, the manure plant is intact?
Yep.
Noise levels are?
Yep. They have a huge yard. They're far away from.
We have
all
not-
the
The
property
Croat,
We have not gone afoul.
yes.
Only I don't have permission from the counties. I can't say anything about them.
I have a motion would I please have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Motion is second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Enjoy the
so much.
chickens.
Did you sign in? Yes, please.
While they're signing, 14 Foster Road, again, keeping of domesticated animals permit for 6 chickens. Aye.
I hope my chickens will be happy as well. If I
Would you
get the
please
permit.
sign in?
We'll try not to make chicken jokes this time.
No, we don't want to lay any eggs here. Oh.
I'm Rita Pasapia. I live at 14 Foster Road with my husband, John Pasapia. This is actually one of my neighbors, Megan.
Megan DeVoychek, 17 Foster.
Decided to come with me in support. So we have always wanted to raise chickens. We have 3 young kids, and I grew up in summers going to my aunt's farm in New Jersey, and it was just always something I was interested in doing for the eggs. And just I think some great lessons can teach the kids too about where our food comes from, and helping take care of the coop and all that entails. And so yeah, and we want to keep 6 chickens.
So as I'm looking at your coop, what is the warming plan for the winter?
Well, chickens don't necessarily always need a warming plan. We will have their water heated and plugged in. But chickens, more concern is in the heat, actually, in the summer than in the winter. They're hardy enough to keep warm.
Well, Samantha,
I looked at the site, I did an inspection. They're kind of in the process of building, they're building a run, and then they're gonna put 2 coops inside of the run, so it's gonna be.
I have a picture of the run, too. It's just almost completed today, if you want me to approach and pass it around.
I can see.
Ella.
Wow,
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a licensed carpenter.
it's like you do
Gonna be
great.
nice.
You do like vines there too.
That's tremendous.
Looks like a pergola.
Right? Purdue would be proud.
Wow.
It's a palatial establishment.
We're getting very sophisticated in our fowl.
The coop that you are seeing, there's actually 2 of them that are gonna be connected, and then they're
That's
gonna go
gonna be
inside there.
I wish the camera could see it, but I'm not sure they can.
I could have sworn we asked questions in the past about the really significant cold weather up here.
So as long as it's insulated and protected from wind and draft and, things like that, then they should be good, especially if you get a hardy, chicken species, which most of them
Is this coop
are.
insulated?
That will be just chicken wire, but there are other coops that they will nest and roost in are insulated. Well, not insulated, but
I'm worried
covered.
about the
Play area.
chickens.
No, I totally agree. I've done a lot of research, and actually, before we made this decision, we visited family members and friends with chickens. And it's very rare. I actually don't even know anybody that heats it in the winter because chickens are so hardy.
Sam, does everybody that's applying for a permit get a copy of our, kind of the new bylaws that the
Best management.
best management practices? Okay, thank you.
How many roosters will you have?
No roosters.
Excellent.
She's good.
The 4th one, they should really be automatic.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a second, please?
Second.
I have motion second. There no other discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Thank you so much for
Thank you
coming.
all so much.
Thank you.
This next one, I'm really looking forward to. It's Mallard Way.
11 Mallard Way, keeping domestic animals, permit for 6 chickens.
We will not be able to duck this issue.
Gosh.
And we are not quacks.
Oh, my gosh. So who do we have here, please?
So I'm Don Barucci with my wife Diane.
Hi.
And my neighbor Nora.
Oh, everybody's brought their hair. Very good. Well, tell us about your plans.
So the plan is just to, have the chickens, same type of thing, as said before, be able to have the eggs and kind of have it as a learning experience. We have actually, the whole neighborhood's kind of excited about it. People kind of anxious to see everything, so,
So, well, I would,
So I
Optional.
conducted my inspection, actually two, because I wanted to get a picture of their shed so that you would have it. So what he's doing is he's moved his shed, he cleared it out, and he's kind of renovating it and turning it into a chicken coop. So it's kind of a repurposed shed into a chicken coop, and it actually looks really good so far, and it's gonna, improve as he goes. But it looks good to me. I don't see why we couldn't grant the permit.
Dr. Saltzman.
How many roosters will you have?
We paid extra to make sure they were chickens.
No, so you don't foresee any issues, silly question, forgive me.
Sure.
But I'm just thinking about water. So will you, is there a water spigot or how, do you just gather water and go out and water the chickens every morning or just?
Yeah, it's just a
I'm
big-
just- I'm just,
it's just a big container, similar like, say, a 5-gallon bucket.
it's 100 feet away and et cetera, the sheds, just wondering. Okay.
Are there any other?
It's a thing that you fill up and then the water slowly kind of goes out, so you
Okay.
just have to fill it up.
It's like a gerbil thing.
Not a daily thing.
Right, exactly. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the chicken permit for
Second,
Mallard Way. I don't know what number, whatever is it?
11.
11
Mallard.
Mallard Way.
I should know
I
that.
have a motion, a second, any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0, please. Thank you so much for coming.
It's great.
Thanks for coming in.
Good luck.
Happy to share our eggs.
Refrigerate your eggs.
Yes.
Last one, 1 Arlington Road, keeping of domestic animals, permit for 6 chickens. Please sign in and state your name.
Hi, I'm Guy Moore. I'm at 1 Arlington Road. This is my abutting neighbor, Jack Donahue, and my other abutting neighbor behind me, Mrs. Walden.
Mrs. Walden, you want to come up? We want to get you on television, Mrs. Walden.
I think it's, there's nothing, like it's only 3 feet tall.
So I'm interested in raising chickens for eggs and meat.
Very good. Samantha, Ms. Hardy.
So I went out and did the inspection again, didn't find any issues. He actually built his coop himself, very pretty. And he's gonna be keeping his chickens in a fenced-off garden area as a run, and then he also has the coop separate. So, again, didn't find any issues there, thought it was
Thank you.
set.
Will you be keeping any roosters?
I have no idea.
Well, if you find them, please return them.
Roosters are very handy in protecting the flock from birds.
But they're not allowed in Burlington.
I understand that,
Okay.
but they would be very handy.
We don't want you to go foul.
Jack, so my chicken run is on the boundary of our property line. So he's here to say that it's okay. It's not 15 feet away. It's on the border.
I appreciate that.
It adheres to the building regulation, though, however.
What building regulation?
Well, in our regulations, the building department, it has to be how many feet? 10?
I believe it's 15
The
feet off
zoning
the
regulations?
property line,
for
but
what
it's
building?
only for a structure.
So
Yeah,
just the
Gar-
garden,
so
okay,
the
I see.
garden doesn't even count in
Yeah,
that.
okay.
so-
So the structure cannot be,
Yeah,
The
his
structure's in the
roof
middle
is
of my
well over.
property, very close to my back door. Thank you for getting rid of the regulation of being 50 or 75 feet away, because that made it, I'm on a very steep hill, and it'd be impossible to go up and down, lugging water in the wintertime, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you for getting rid of that regulation.
What's your waste plan?
I want to say no waste plan. So I'm doing, huh?
Manure? You use for,
Well, I'm doing the deep litter method, which is you don't have to clean your coop out as much, but if and when I do, if it doesn't stink, I'm gonna put it in my regular compost pile that I've always had on the side of my property. And if it does stink, I'll put it just in the back yard in my very large compost pile where I put all the leaves and other debris.
Sam, what's he using? What's the method he's doing?
So you let the waste kind of collect and it builds on top of itself, and eventually it will decompose, and that produces kind of like a layer of bacteria, which is actually good for the birds. It keeps them from, it builds up their immune system so they don't get sick. So it's actually good to not clean your coops frequently. So every day cleaning your coop is not a good idea. So it's actually a good method. It's in the best.
That's called deep litter.
Sorry?
That's called deep litter.
Deep litter.
We have other
D-E-E-P.
people in Burlington
litter.
who use that method.
I'm using the stuff called coop clean, which is like shavings, but all this chopped up hay, and it's very messy putting it out, but I don't smell anything from it, and all they do is poop. I mean, eat and poop all day. And there's no smell, so I'm quite amazed at that so far.
Well, hopefully there's eggs.
In 6 months, yes.
Dr. Salzman, you didn't learn that in medical school?
No, I did not.
Just wanted to.
Did not
ask
learn
that
about
question.
deep litter.
Susan, and I know you and I spoke about this is the first I've heard it since I've been on the board anyway, that somebody's saying they're keeping chickens for meat and eggs. And I know you and I have talked about, can you just, because it's probably out there, can you just talk about any,
there are no
Yes,
restrictions.
right.
So, according to the Mass Department of Agriculture, you can use your chickens for meat.
yep, okay.
Those are for the ones who don't produce eggs.
And so, since he has a permit for 6 chickens, let's say he slaughters 2, you can just replace those automatically?
Yeah, you just can't go over 6.
I can't go over 6. Like if hawk, God forbid, takes one of my chickens, I can then go to the MSPCA and maybe adopt some old chicken.
Okay,
Okay.
interesting. I'll make a motion to approve the domesticated animal permit for 1 Arlington Road.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Learned
for coming.
something today.
Because I think 210 Fox is going to be lengthy discussion. Do you want to take one of these to
Are they-
talk about? I don't think anybody's here for
Is anybody here for
210.
210 Fox Hill Road? If not, I move that we take
Were
that
we
at the
expecting
end. Could I have a motion?
You don't know about it?
Yeah, they were supposed to be here.
Yeah, right.
Yes, but they're
They're not here, so
they're not.
let's
just gonna
take it out of order.
Take it
No,
out
we're
of
going to
order.
talk about it, but just
Take it out of-
Eastern's here, so.
Yes, I'd love,
Can I just ask a quick question, Chair? If they're supposed to be here, they're not here, this is a hearing. What's our
Well, we-
protocol for that?
that's part of the
That's part of
discussion.
the discussion.
But this isn't a discussion, this is a hearing.
Well, they're not here for the
I think we
hearing.
need to still talk about it and then talk about what the next steps
Yeah, I
would
think
be.
it's going to be a lengthy discussion, so I'd like to take it out of order since there are no representatives here. Could I have a motion, please, to take
So
210?
moved, so moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Our recording secretary, thank you very much. You know, we're doing some different things here tonight. I hope we're not confusing the issue. Thank you very much, and thank you for being here. Northeast University Bunker Structural Integrity Report. Mr. Buckley, do you have any roosters?
No, but I think we could put 6 in.
We find you to be structurally integral.
Thank you very much for coming and updating us.
Send the annual visit. Good evening. For the record, Robert Buckley, Raymond Bronstein. Tyler,
Tyler Meek, Senior Staff 1, Professional Engineer, in the Gumperton Hager.
My name is Chris Balo. I'm with UIP Architects Engineers, the architects of record for the Mixed-Use Research Building on Northeastern's Burlington campus.
we're here as part of the permitting process. We would ask the applicant at the appropriate time to look at the abandoned Nike missile silos from a structural engineering standpoint, and that's all we're here to give an update and a report of that. So, Chris, you gonna run it?
So we prepared a brief presentation just to kind of outline the discussion for you. So what you're looking at is a site plan that dates back to last spring when we received planning approval for the project.
Excuse me, could you kind of hit the light, please? They may be able to capture this on television if... Thank you.
So north is up on the page. In the upper right-hand corner is the Costas Research Institute, Elliott Hall to the west, the drone cage that was constructed about a year ago, and then the mixed-use research building on the southern border of the site, which is now under construction and slated to open in late August. One issue that we had to deal with, and it was a condition of approval, or a condition for approval, was how we dealt with the two abandoned missile silos, below-grade missile silos, that are shown here in orange. And as you can see from the southern bunker, there's a drive lane between, just to the north of the building, which passes over a portion of the south bunker. And so that was a concern that was raised by this board, and we went ahead, we went through a series of steps to evaluate the integrity of the bunker, and then if any mitigating strategies were required, we would also bring those to you as well. So Tyler's going to elaborate on that now.
Okay, thank you. Like I said, my name is... Is that working okay?
Yep.
Like I said, my name is Tyler Meek. I'm a Senior Staff 1, Registered Professional Engineer in Massachusetts. I led the investigation and the structural analysis of both bunkers. So a quick history, the bunkers were constructed in 1956, decommissioned in 1963. Susan Gumpertz and Hager, or I'll saying SGH from this point forward, became involved in the project in May 2018.
Was there ever anything in the bunkers?
Yes.
There
So
was.
they were operable for those 8 years.
And this board was involved in working with the Army Corps of Engineers in the cleanup in 1991. And yes, I was on the board in 1991.
How heavily were you involved?
Quite a bit.
He's still glowing.
Well, how clean are they?
We asked the Army Corps of Engineers at the time, were there nuclear warheads on the missiles? And they would neither confirm nor deny. Therefore, we asked them to do a radiologic survey, which they did report that it was negative.
That's good news for me.
Do you remember that, Mr. Buckley? You were around in 1991, too.
So in May 2018, we made preliminary observations using a remote camera to identify any access hazards or visible deterioration from the access points. In September of 2018, SGH made confined space entry into the bunkers to do a full survey of the bunkers.
Did you go inside the bunker?
Yes, sir. And I'm not glowing.
I'm
So
sorry?
And I'm not glowing, so your report is accurate.
Wow. No, I'm just, it must have been very strange to go into those bunkers. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it was, I brag about this project. It was certainly a good experience. In November 2018, we removed samples of the steel reinforcement. Unfortunately, the drawings that we have on the bunkers don't identify strength of the steel reinforcement. Therefore, we retrieved some, tested it in our lab, and determined the strength we would use for our calculations. So from January to April, we did our assessment and structural analysis of the bunkers. We worked with the Burlington Fire Department to determine the heaviest truck that would be on site to respond to an emergency. We evaluated other emergency vehicles. However, a fire truck fully loaded was the max was the most was the heaviest load that the structure would see. After our report, Northeastern SGH and the project team started evaluating options for the bunkers and how to move forward. As a result of our analysis, we determined that the bunkers could support the existing loads, and we provided other additional loads that the bunkers could support to allow freedom of the plan to change or of the site plan to be updated to match these requirements. So there's 3 general areas. The blue has the highest strength, green is the middle strength, and yellow is a staircase that we're going to reconstruct to support any loads.
So I'm Paul McAndrew, Senior Project Manager with Northeastern. I'm working closely with the owner's project manager, Pink & Company, who's done most of the reporting to Christine as related to this project. So this image up here that Chris mentioned before shows the existing bunker location with the original proposal for the access lane between the south bunker and the building. Next. Sure. And this image, we talked originally about leaving in place. The board asked us to take a closer look at the bunkers. After the structural analysis, which Tyler can answer any questions regarding that, we determined that was it the middle strength or the low strength portion of the concrete? There was one portion of the concrete where we determined that the heaviest Burlington fire truck, a point load of the heaviest Burlington fire truck would cause failure, potential failure
Right, yeah.
of the roof slab. So what we did, we talked about many options on how to make sure that there wasn't a failure on site. We talked about infilling the south bunker with excess soil that we now have on site. The original cost estimate told us that it was affordable, but as excuse me, as we moved further along with the design and the cost analysis, the cost kept rising, and so it became such a high cost that we looked for a separate type of design. We took many of the conditions into account. One of the conditions from, I believe it was a planning board, was that the access lane and the parking was located in the original design. One would have to cross the access lane. A pedestrian would have to cross the access lane to get to the building. And one of the conditions asked us to look at that further to determine if there was a different way we could set up the parking. So because of all these late finds in the project, we determined that to create a green space in front of the building might be the most appropriate. This design shows that there is a barrier that would keep vehicles off of the south bunker, and it would also create parking at a curb that's closest to the building, but doesn't have an access lane in front of the building where one would have to cross access lane to get to the building. Also shown on this sketch, the north bunker, because the same conditions persist in the north bunker, we show a fence enclosing the north bunker so vehicles can't pass over. Sure. Do you want to talk about this one, Chris?
So just a couple other things to point out. This was actually ended up being an improvement to the project. In one respect, we've increased the amount of green space on the site, and we've decreased the amount of impervious pavement. Any place that you see is green space there that has asphalt in that location presently, the asphalt will be removed, and so it will become a pervious surface. And so that actually is quite a big benefit. If you've been out to the site, you know how much asphalt there is out there. In addition, we've received approval from Burlington Fire Department for this scheme. Fire trucks will actually fight the fire from the rear of the building, the south side of the building, closest to Mary Cummings Park. That's where they'll stage. The fire department connection is there, and that's where operations will be staged. That being said, there is access to the north side, the front of the building as well. The north-south walk that you see here is designed to carry the load of a large fire truck all the way to this point here. And so they can bring a fire truck, and they can have the truck with a lifting mechanism on it, a man lift mechanism on it to, say, evacuate someone from the roof if that needed to be done. These are a series of permanent bollards all the way around that protect it. There's a curb, row of parking, and then a series of trees that will protect this entire area on this side. So this area here is not large vehicles or vehicles of any size would be able to get onto that surface. So that's what we brought for you today, and we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
So, so thank you for this, I appreciate it, and I'm glad we did the structural analysis around these, right, because I think we're all feeling better about it, and I like this new plan. I guess my concern or question would be, are there, was there a longevity test, or are there longevity tests that can be done, right? So when does it totally fail? And are we just Band-Aiding a problem that we're gonna have potentially 3 years? I mean, they're 60 years old, or however old the bunkers are. Is the longevity say that in 65 years, they're just totally gonna be structurally insecure and that they're gonna cave in, right? So that would be my question. Do you have any data around that or any thoughts about how to address that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. So inside the space itself, we didn't see any observations that identified significant deterioration or that would decrease the capacity of the structure as it is today. With inspections, I don't see any reason why this would not last 60 more years. We saw no indication this would fail anytime soon.
So, and what's on top of the bunkers? Is it a concrete platform, or how is it enclosed? So I know there's obviously soil and pavement on it today, but is there and I know we talked about this a year ago, but what's enclosing the bunkers? Is it steel or?
So it's a concrete structure.
Yeah.
There's a 6-inch concrete slab that spans 7 feet between beams, and the 6-inch slab is what's problematic to support emergency vehicles. If you have a 90,000 pound fire truck, has a very heavy wheel load that can punch through the 6-inch slab. So there's running left to right on this screen, right where it says South Bunker. There are blast doors that, when it was operable, they would use to raise and lower the missiles. Those are now covered with precast concrete planks that we also evaluated for strength. So it's a concrete structure covered with concrete planks and then the overburden of soil and asphalt.
So you said inspections, how often do you inspect them, if any?
Right, so we have been discussing 6 months annually, 2 years, things like that.
There are manholes that are being installed to provide access into the bunkers as well, so they can be inspected on a frequent basis.
Will they fill with water
Yes, they were.
completely?
There was 6 feet of unfilled space in each bunker.
And will that cause any issues, the 6 feet of water? How are you going to inspect it? You have to pump them out every 2 years?
So we're evaluating other options for inspection. The only deterioration we observed in the bunkers was on the roof structure itself. Therefore, we're evaluating if we're comfortable doing remote inspections, unmanned inspections, basically. So having some kind of drone or other piece of equipment inside the bunker, operated manually from outside the bunker, doing inspections.
I have one more question, I can, at your other northeastern site in Nahant, they use those bunkers. I've been in them. They were magnificent, what they did with them. Can they ever be used again for anything? I mean, the Nahant bunkers are marine biology laboratories now, which are very impressive. Was there any thought about reusing? It's probably not a fair question, but it's just a thought.
I mean, there was talk over time, they could be used for something, but there's no plan at the moment to use them for anything. I think the idea to occupy that space would take a significant amount of work. Drainage system, electrical system, handicap access. So there's several things to consider if the university decided to occupy that space.
Okay, thank you very much. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to get back to Mr. McSweeney's question about deterioration. And we have somewhat of a precedence to even ask this question with the idea, totally separate idea, but it's a similar concept. You know, we made a big deal out of vapor barriers. We didn't know what was going to happen in 20 years or in 2 generations or whatever, but we were very adamant that when it came to that discussion, that we were concerned about what's going on when we're no longer here. So I have to press you a little bit about this. So I'm assuming that when they built these in 1956, they were not thinking about 2019. So I want to think about 2050, 2060, when these buildings should still be around, I'm assuming, and this area should still be there. And you talked about monitoring for a couple of years, et cetera. I am concerned about this idea of leaving something that should disintegrate within time, at least in parts of it, as we've already found. I guess my question is, I'm concerned about it. You're obviously concerned about it. Are you concerned about it for our community and people who are going to be on this site? And should we do something in preparation, I don't know what that is, with regard to that concern?
Sure, and I appreciate you pressing me on it. I was surprised to find waterproofing on the roof of this structure. And to be quite frank with you, this is one of the best structures I've investigated in my career at SGH. It's not exposed to chlorides, which is from salts that are used for salt melt on roadways. It's not directly exposed to parking. And the waterproofing itself was intact. I, with comfort, would say, given annual inspections, biannual inspections, you'll identify any kind of deterioration well before it becomes a strength concern.
Through the chair, wouldn't the solution be that the board be provided with copies of those inspection reports so that on an ongoing basis, because this will have to be approved as a minor engineering change as part of the planning board. So I don't think we have any problems having that condition in there, for the obvious reasons we'd be concerned too if there was a problem. So if it's being inspected, that would provide the anticipatory time if an issue were to arise. It's not going to be open to vehicular traffic or anything of that nature. It's not being used for any research or occupation. So the integrity is what's being concerned here, so that if anything, it would cave in on itself, I suppose, right? So, but if we have inspections and you get copies of those reports, as you do with any other monitoring, that might be the way to go.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really valid question. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit more.
Just in Italy.
I'm sorry?
I think of
This
the
is no Colosseum. I've seen the Colosseum, this is no Colosseum.
Remember
But it still is.
So I think I'd be comfortable with that, but I guess my question would be, you know, if you're totally covering this thing with green space, how do you test it?
They're gonna have manhole covers.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that, okay. I think that, I mean, aside from filling it in, which I think is the best solution.
Right.
I think, you know, it would satisfy, my concern. And I think, do we make that a condition or add that as a condition?
They'll be back before you with the minor
With the
engineering
approval.
change.
We're gonna do, this is just a discussion
Gotcha.
here. It is listed under discussion, bunker structural.
But
integrity
since it's a
report.
change to the site plan, they'll have to come back for approval.
Gotcha.
We can add it to there, and I think that's a great addition
Yeah,
to
I
the.
think so too.
Yes.
I just don't have it coming back in 30 years saying, what were they thinking about?
Right.
You know, so.
Or
these-
somebody's
we're-
sitting there having a picnic lunch and then all of a
Yeah,
sudden,
you know, but.
Boom, they're down
we
16
think we're
feet,
thinking
right?
about it, they're thinking about it,
That
we're
only
gonna do a
happens in
condition
Florida.
about it.
yeah.
What was that?
That only happens in Florida, right?
Well, Northeastern does own the site now, correct?
That is correct.
Well, thank you. I think, any other questions from
No,
staff or?
This was great.
Thank you so much, it was really good. Thank you so much for coming, and it's fascinating. Thank you.
Have you been up there to see it? It's quite impressive.
I can tell you that
I should have asked the question. I should have asked the question.
that my Cub Scout troop in 1962 had a tour of the place when it was up and running.
I'm asking
Yeah,
recently.
recently when they
Aren't you supposed to only ask questions you know the answers to?
Yes, I have been up there many times.
Have you seen the drone cage?
No, I have not.
Go up there and see it.
I will. I'll tell him Mr. Buckley sent me. Thank you very much. No, this was very good. We appreciate you
This is great,
coming.
very thorough.
And nice seeing you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Northeastern, we're privileged to have them here.
Your stuff, go ahead.
You gonna let me drive the Porsche this year?
Yep.
That's what I wanna know.
All right. So I want to go with, this agenda is so long, I want to make sure that we have one other discussion, stormwater management.
No, we did that.
We did that there.
210.
210.
We have to go back now to 210 Fox Hill Road. We have received a very, very large package of the history of what's been going on at 210 Fox Hill Road. I think many of us have been there and seen the situation there. I know our staff has fined the individual a number of times. I know that we have been in front of a clerk magistrate. I know that he found for the town, but we continue to have issues. I guess, Christine, can you summarize where we are quickly?
I think it would be good if you just, and I know there's a lengthy history on this, but if you can just, I think for the record, it would be good just to give.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just want to make sure the community understands that this is a hearing, not a discussion. And the residents of this location, 210 Fox Hill, are not here.
And they were invited to be here.
Did not have the courtesy to show before the Board of Health to discuss this issue, as we always do in fairness and civility. So I'm very concerned about that. That being said.
So this issue came to our attention back in November of 2018 when the engineering department of the DPW had several complaints in the neighborhood of Fox Hill Road of people discharging their sump pump water onto the street and in some cases causing icing conditions when the weather promoted that. I went out and inspected, I believe it was initially 6 locations that the DPW had referred to us, wrote several order letters because I found that 2 or 3 were indeed discharging some pump water onto the street and causing some icing issues. At that time, all but one address corrected the situation by moving their sump pump hose off of their driveway and/or street and back onto their lawn so that the water would infiltrate on the property where the water is being generated. Throughout the ensuing months, further complaints were received, not just for 210 Fox Hill, but a couple of other locations. So very frequently, I was on Fox Hill Road and myself and others, director and board members, and not, witnessed repeated offenses of the same discharging of sump pump water into the driveway and then onto the street. And there were a couple of repeat offenses at addresses other than 210. Those were corrected. If they weren't corrected after the first order letter, they were issued a fine, and those fines were indeed paid for those other addresses. At this particular location, we've had a series of order letters. I think there's been 7 of them, and we've issued a series of fines because we would go issue an order letter, give a time frame for correction, we would re-inspect, and the violation had not been corrected. So per our protocol, the next step is issue a fine. We had, I believe, 4 or 5 of those incidents prior to March, and on April 3rd, we went to a magistrate hearing at the Woburn District Court, presented the information to the judge, and the judge found for us and ordered that the fines be paid. Since then, there were 3 new incidents where the same thing occurred. A violation was called in, myself or somebody else inspected, and in 2 of those instances, the violation was corrected, so it stopped there, and a fine was not issued. But in the last situation, violation was confirmed after the time frame for correction had passed. The violation was re-inspected, and the violation was still in existence. So I believe it was the 4th fine was issued recently in May. I did find out from the clerk today that that fine got paid today. As a result of those series of events, at the magistrate hearing, we asked the resident from 210 to come up with a permanent solution so that, we could stop the cycle. He indicated that he would seek a permanent solution. That has not been the case. And as a result of the 6th order letter and 4th fine, the department issued a appearance letter to come to tonight's hearing to discuss how we would hopefully get to a permanent solution.
So what, sorry, Mr.
Go ahead, please.
So while I'm, I just want to point out that our going to the magistrate to argue to have the fines paid, those fines, and while the magistrate found in the town's favor, which is great, still it was director time, your time, council time, which those costs far outweighed what we received, what the town received for fines. So I thank the magistrate for reviewing and for understanding the situation, but going back and forth to the magistrate is not in our best interest. So, and the town still loses because somebody, for some reason, which we cannot determine now, does not want to abide by the rules which we are trying to uphold because that's our job as the Department of Public, as the Board of Health for the town. So, has our community member ever given any explanation about why this continues to be an issue, even though they know that this is not right?
At the hearing in Woburn, the resident indicated that it was being done up and down his street, and so in other words, everybody was doing it, and he was just doing it so he didn't flood his basement. We did point out that we are frequently on that street, not just because of this address, but other addresses, and where we find other violations, we have, cited them, and those have been corrected or have been fined. And we asked if a permanent solution could be achieved, and it was indicated that he would seek one.
We are looking for an acceptable solution for both the resident and the town. We're spending a lot of time here, a lot of energy, to fix a situation that is magnified during the winter when Fox Hill becomes a skating rink. I think that we need to come to some solution, and I wish the resident had been here this evening, but if we can come up with a solution, we won't have the skating rink. And I happened to ask another lawyer today, just off the record, off the cuff, what would happen if someone had a bad car accident on Fox Hill Road? Would they be criminally liable? They weren't very sure how that would be interpreted, but that could be a possibility of criminal negligence. We need to fix this so that'll go, this whole issue will go away. We are not being we are being draconian, very harsh with the solution because we need it fixed. It's a safety situation. And if it's just moving the hose, maybe getting an engineer or somebody creating a dry well, whatever, but to keep the water off is what we're just looking for. And I just don't think that that is asking that much.
I don't think we're being draconian at all.
No, I just think that we...
Been very tolerant.
I think we're upholding the regulations, but we're not enforcers. We're not.
Well, I think it's time that we look into something that will get a discussion going, whether that be, as my lawyer friend said, an injunction, which may lead to a court order, non-compliance, and if that happens, then it becomes I don't want it to happen, a criminal situation. But we need to get the person here to talk to him and to work something out. But we have to take the next step because we want this off our plate. We don't want to keep fining. I do get complaints from all kinds of people in town about this. As everybody here has received complaints. We just want this to be corrected. And I'm not sure, and I asked today the Director of Public Health to call our town council and to see what we can do. Ask the person to come back in. If they refuse, then ask town council, can we get an injunction? Can't we do something? But what would be the best possible thing for everybody is to just start a discussion and come up with a solution. But I guess that did not happen tonight, and hopefully it'll happen in the near future.
So, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So, Christine, do we know if the pipe is removed, the hose is removed today or recently?
The last time I was out there, I couldn't visibly see the hose from the street, but I believe recently the director was out there and saw it.
So the last time we were out there was with the fine?
No,
Oh, okay.
I went by on Friday to see if,
Yeah.
some kind of solution had been made. The hose was, there's a drain pipe. The hose was kind of on the other side of that drain pipe, still in close proximity to the driveway. So this is the black, if it's the same hose, I'm
Right.
assuming it is, the black hose that has always been in the driveway. So we called him, Christine attempted to call
Oh,
him, left a
absolutely,
message last week, just to ask him, did you reach a permanent solution? Because in the letter, it does state, if you reach a permanent solution, you won't have to appear. But we have no idea if a permanent solution has been reached or not, because he didn't call us back, he didn't tell us what the permanent solution is. And I did see that there is a black pipe still there, adjacent or near the driveway. So
Yeah, I mean, I
don't
think
think that there's a permanent
that's
solution.
permanent solution. so.
Reach, because
So,
I imagine he would have told
and
us.
the Mancinis may never move the pipe no matter what we do, right? So I think that's where we have to kind of look at this, is that we're never gonna have a permanent solution, and then how are we going to tackle that? Because we're not law enforcement, right? And I think our bylaws only, or our regs only go to a certain point, and, kind of just, it's repeating, it's a cycle, vicious cycle, right? It kind of just keeps
Each
going.
complaint is another
Independent, right.
So you can find.
Or if you go by and you say that he moved the pipe, or they, the Mancinis moved the pipe, that, then now it starts a new clock all over again, right, to a certain
Well,
extent,
so we try not to make finding the first thing that we do. We want to, give people
Well,
a
I
chance,
think-
issue an order letter. But at this point, it seems as if we get a complaint, we see an issue, or if we go by there regularly to make sure that a permanent solution has been achieved.
Right.
And if it hasn't, to issue that fine right on the first
Well, I
time
think
we
if the
see it,
Mancinis
rather
reached
than
out
wait.
to us, we would try to work with them, right? I mean, I think that's our first,
Right.
response, right? This is not a punitive.
No.
We're trying to correct a problem and hopefully not creating other problems by them doing this, right?
So the regulations gives us two options. First option, for enforcement.
Right.
First option is fining $50 a day for every day of that they're out of
Right.
compliance. So every time we see it, a $50 fine. The second
But
one.
that means that we have to go out there every single day.
Right,
or
or,
somebody.
one day, then another day, whatever day we see it, that's a $50 fine.
It's still an expense to the taxpayers of
Right.
Burlington, right?
Oh, yeah. Anything that we do is going to be an expense, I would think, unless the person voluntarily did it. The second option is injunctive relief, as Dr. Weiner said. So we could, in that case, we would need to get town council involved.
Yep.
Again, that probably more expensive than our time, is town council's time, to kind of find a solution that way. So those, in the regulations, those are the two options that we have for enforcement.
I mean, I think, and again, this is just my personal opinion, I think we need to at least get, kind of some direction from town legal counsel, town council. But not stop in what we're doing, right? And I know, so I guess if he hasn't permanently solved for it, it's not like we have to start the clock again, right? So, because my concern is that.
We don't have to do that. If we see it, then it's a fine.
Okay. Ongoing.
Each time we see it, every day of the violation.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
fine.
All right. Yeah, it didn't start over like that.
Right.
Right.
Because now,
Because then it's like we gotta get another order letter and then,
Yeah, so the order letter, it would go an order letter with a fine, so they'd have 30 days to fix it. We'd go back out in a week, it's still not fixed, it's another fine.
And we need to come up with a permanent solution, because I know it's May, but winter's coming, and ice is coming, and I don't want to go through an unsafe situation on that street again. And if we start now, maybe we can get it by the time winter comes. Because clearly, that's when I worry the most, not right now, but it's when I really worry the most, that someone is going to get hurt.
And some people, their solution is just moving their hose to a section of their property that will infiltrate. That's what most people do, is move their hose, that's the solution. The case here is the hose gets moved and then it gets moved back, so we're going back and forth, back and forth. So, that's why we wanted to talk to him about what could be more permanent than just having the hose out there, because it gets back into the driveway, which then goes into the street.
Is there anybody else?
I mean, I guess, making assumptions here, right? But I'm thinking that his solution is, well, he'll pay the $300 a season and keep the hose out there, right? And the $300 it offsets the water in his basement. He doesn't mind
Could
paying
be
the
more than
$300.
that.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm just making
yeah.
up a number, right?
Yeah.
But obviously that's not being great community citizen, right?
Right.
And secondly, it's a significant cost to the taxpayers, right? So, it's just not the right approach.
And I don't think we've ever had this problem in
Right.
the past, never. Well, I think the board is asking you to call town council.
Okay?
And do we want to ask the resident to appear at the June board meeting?
I don't think
I
we
don't
need
see
to. I mean, we
how-
gave him ample opportunity to come in and talk to us
so
about it.
now we're gonna try to fix this problem
Right.
ourselves, and we have historically been a fair and, collegial, board, and I'm actually somewhat taken aback that we don't have one of our community members here to help us work through this. So I say we just take care of this however we see fit and move forward.
Don't want to go in that
Via the
direction, we
regulations,
have to.
obviously.
And, we don't know what's gonna happen. Maybe, hopefully, we won't see a problem anymore.
I don't know.
So if you're watching, please give us a call, and we can work together to solve this. If not, we'll have to find another way, but I would just, if you're watching, please give us a call. Thank you so much. Okay. Staff
Assuming we
reports.
don't need a vote or anything.
No, I
like
don't
that.
think so. No. Staff reports, environmental engineer.
Good evening.
Ms. Lumen, please.
Coming.
Ms. Mathis.
Okay. So I just wanted to update the board on, I had an investigation in my report regarding the Shawshene River. And on Easter Sunday, a transformer fell off a pole in Bedford directly into the Shawshene River. And multiple towns, DEP, Bedford Fire, Burlington Fire, Burlington DPW, Bedford DPW responded. And a cleanup was implemented and it was monitored for weeks. The key issue for Burlington being that the discharge into the river of the transformer oil was downstream of our water intake for Mill Pond. Our water intake off the Shawshene River into the Mill Pond Reservoir is actually located in Billerica, about 4 miles from the Mill Pond Reservoir. So DEP monitored that, and I think 3 separate inspections were done at our intake location, and it was noted that there was never a sheen or any issues, and they subsequently put those pumps back online to allow the refilling of the Mill Pond Reservoir.
Those were mineral oil?
Yeah. And the conclusion was that, it was kind of a couple of good things. Either because of booms, multiple series of booms and absorbents that had been placed in the river downstream prior to the town's intake, that the transformer oil never made it to the intake location. Or if it had, the river was so high and flowing so quickly, it just went right by. And our intake is actually pretty low, lower than the surface water. So that was a good, happy ending to that one. And were there any other questions on the report?
Anybody have any questions? I have one. You met with Amy Warfield, the town clerk, about mosquito spraying notice. Do we want to elaborate? When are we spraying?
So they did the aerial spraying the last week of April, first week of May, and that's in over the major wetland areas. They do it by helicopter. And then last week, they did the catch basin dunkings. You know, they actually put the larvicide directly in the catch basins. And the truck-mounted spraying will start as soon as they get the initial results back from their traps, which would be in the next couple of weeks. They base it on the population as they catch them.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Not have a motion to approve the environmental engineer's report?
So moved. Second.
Second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0. Okay, Associate Health Inspector. Sam, would you like to highlight something, or?
So it's kind of a long report. I just wanted to note that I did get my certified pool operator certification.
cool.
Very good.
Excellent.
Training with our health agent to conduct the pool inspections for June and July. So I'll start doing the monthly pool inspections.
Wonderful.
Very good.
Any questions for?
I have one question. So I saw Shaw's was on here for a trash issue.
Again.
Not the first time.
And this is repeated, and I think the last time there was seepage of some sort coming out of it, but it's always been something around the dumpster and trash. So what's going on there, and?
So that was actually kind of confusion on my part. When I went out and did the inspection initially, I thought that, because there was some trash buildup in between Shaw's and the salt shed, so I thought that it was that strip of land, so I had Shaw's go out and clean it up, and then we had another complaint, and I thought, oh, everything's fine, but the complaint was behind the fence on the street around the corner from Shaw's, so it's abutting the fence for Shaw's. So the problem is neighborhood kids, someone is taking the fence down at Shaw's, so their fence has been damaged. And they keep repairing it and it keeps getting broken, so they just don't see a point in fixing it. So trash is blowing from the street and also from the Shaw's parking lot, and it's getting caught in the brush in between. So Shaw's cleaned up their part of it, DPW went out and cleaned up the roadside trash, and hopefully now we've figured out lot lines, who's responsible for what. So hopefully we can,
Gotcha. So this wasn't the same issue that they've had in the past with the dumpster?
That was an odor issue.
Yep.
Yeah.
With the compactor. That was, we were trying to figure out where the odor was coming from, and we believe it was that compactor.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question. You've been working on the shelter drill. Do we know when that's going to take place?
So that had to be postponed. The emergency management director, something came up for him and he can't make that date that we had in June. So I haven't heard now of a new date, because there's some difficulties with the building. We have to have the entire building. So it's difficult for the rec department to reschedule their programs so that we can have the entire building on a Saturday. So the emergency management director is going to be working with the rec department director to come up with a new date, and we don't have that yet.
Thank you very much. Yes.
I have a question, Mr. Chair. So, it seems to be a repeat issue that folks, we had 4 folks who came here as appropriately to get their domesticated animal permit. But your report indicates that we have folks who have chickens and do not permit. So I know that we have the ability to fine and stuff like that, but is there anything else we can do in a proactive way to say, because this is not the first time. We actually had somebody who came here for a hearing recently because they had chickens on their property, and we pulled them to task. It's kind of, I guess I'm kind of bothered by where, if you don't know about it, we're just going to do it kind of thing. It's just, citizenship is just, anyway, is there anything we can do to kind of reduce this from happening?
Well, so I think the confusion is the regulations just changed, so a lot of people had 3 chickens or 2 chickens and they didn't need a permit before, so I've actually had a lot of people call and send in applications and say, I had chickens, now I need a permit, I don't know what to do. So I've been working with some people, some neighbors have kind of called and we've had complaints. I've gone out, seen chickens, sent letters, and had permits come in, applications come in. So we're kind of working with people. So we ask that if you have chickens to,
Now,
apply for a permit.
Regardless of the number.
Regardless of number. So I think that's the issue, is a lot of people who had 3 or less chickens didn't need a permit before, so now they're kind of confused. So I've had a couple people call, and so just to clarify, any chickens needs a permit.
and you noted that we've grandfathered all of the other permits, people that we've permitted in the past, or are they all coming in again?
They keep their permits.
They keep their permits and we've grandfathered those individuals.
Well,
They renew.
They renew.
yeah, they'll renew,
They'll
and then if
renew.
there are any issues, we can, bring it up, but I think
They
everyone's.
automatically renew.
Automatically.
Well, we do it, Sam goes out and does an inspection.
Yeah, so I do the inspection, so if there's any issues
They
with
don't have to
them
come.
But they
as
don't
far
have to
as
do
best
anything.
management practices, then I will.
Yeah.
Okay.
They just fill out an application
Yeah.
and pay a fee.
Yeah,
Do we have a motion, please, for the Associate Health Inspector?
so moved.
Second.
Motion's all in favor?
Aye.
4-0, please. Supervisory Nurse.
Hi. Just a few things we have going on. We did have the health fair on the 18th of May, which seemed to be quite a success. We also have,
How many folks?
we have 180, 200?
Yeah, between 180 and 200. So it's about the same as the previous year.
On June 26th, we're going to have Beth Keeley from she's the Chief of Human Trafficking Division in Boston. She's going to come do a presentation for the public on human trafficking. And that will be from 6 to 8 at the Grandview Farm Room on June 26th, as a Wednesday. I'm working with Mark Saya, trying to get a schedule right now for some Narcan training for our volunteers and for our employees. And let's see, we started a public health table in front of the Board of Health Administrator's office, so it'll be on a monthly topic. So this month, obviously, was just a roundabout of everything kind of on the table, basically blood pressures, information on ticks and mosquitoes and all other stuff, cooking, barbecuing, things like that. And our next month will be June, which is Safety Month. So I'll have on that table any information that the public will need on safety. And that's going to be a wide range too, on fall safety, swimming pool, swimming safety, things like that relating to the season.
Sun safety.
Sun safety, oh yeah.
Are we still doing the parks?
Shade.
Not the shade thing, but the sunscreen dispensers at the parks?
I'll have to check on that. I need to touch base with that, with the sun safety program.
And I saw one in,
They do still
Wildwood
have
Park.
them still have the sunscreen dispensers
Right.
at
They're
the
just-
parks,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
We haven't worked with the Recreation Department this year on doing the sun safety program, because it was unclear where they were going with the grant that they were looking for. They had some difficulty finding a dermatologist to work with them, and you have to have a dermatologist who will sponsor you for the grant. So they were looking into being able to try to find a dermatologist. That was the last I heard. I haven't heard from them if they were able to find one or not. So they haven't reached out to us and said, we really want you to kind of begin implementing this again. So we really haven't. We have
So
all
the
the
program-
information ready to go.
Right,
Yeah.
the program isn't a go, but we still have the dispensers and they're loaded.
Oh, yeah, that's,
Okay,
well,
that
we
was
don't
my
do it,
concern.
the Recreation
Okay,
Department does
but my
it.
concern was that we were still continuing that part of the program.
As far as I know, the dispensers are still there and they're still being filled by the Recreation Department.
I am more, if that's an issue, I am more than happy to help reach out to Winchester Hospital dermatology folks or Leahy's dermatology folks. I can't believe that
Yeah.
any dermatologist, when approached with a sun safety program, would say, no can do.
So we did have a dermatologist.
And she
who-
left.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can talk offline, but I'm more than happy to mediate getting somebody else. That's silly. We can definitely.
That
we
would be
can
great.
definitely do
And
that.
then once we get the dermatologist,
Oh,
you have the program in
that's
place
crazy.
for a year, you can apply for the grant.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I will, can we follow up?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question. You did an interview recently, I'm not sure it's been on BCAT yet, on tick prevention.
Yes.
I was out prospecting last week, and I covered myself in all kinds of stuff to keep the ticks away. But would you comment on some of the things that you commented on?
Sure, we talked a little bit about prevention, and the stuff that you're talking about putting on yourself has to be Environmental Protection Agency approved. So it needs to be EPA approved. Follow the directions, because for children it's going to be different than it is for adults, especially when using DEET. And also you want to make sure that you're wearing long sleeve shirts, long pants, and no flip-flops. Please use sneakers or shoes or boots when you're going out into the woods. And tuck those long pants inside your socks. You want to make sure that you're wearing light-colored clothing because the ticks are easier to see. And when you're coming in, definitely check your pets, your children, and yourself before stepping in for those ticks, especially behind, they love to go behind the neck, under the arms, behind the knees, anywhere where you can't physically see them. Just, make sure you check for that. And then if you see a tick, pull it off with some fine tweezers and take it off immediately. And what you can do is put it in a little cup. If you think it's a deer tick, or you can send it out. Show your provider, and especially if you have like a bullseye or a rash or a fever or any kind of symptoms, 3 to 7 days usually after a tick bite, you need to call your provider immediately and get checked. And each provider has their own protocol for tick bites.
Thank you very much.
Do we have something on the website too, don't we?
I believe we have tick prevention stuff, and we also have some tick prevention on our public health table. And if they have any questions, they can, feel free to call me, and I'll be help.
I think the checks, I think the checks are crucial, because even if you do everything you you just talked about, they still find a way.
They do.
And they like heat, moisture areas, so not just where you said, but also around.
Around the waist.
Yeah, around the waist, notorious. And sometimes, folks have come to me with these huge ticks. Those are dog ticks, and they're not the ones we're concerned about. It's the really small ticks that are the ones that are more consistent with deer ticks, so. Anyway.
And check your clothes.
Clothes.
When-
And another thing you could do with your clothes too is take them off immediately, don't put them in the hamper because the tick can stay alive for 3 days in your hamper. So the best thing to do is to put those clothes into a dryer for maybe 10 minutes on a hot setting so they'll kill the ticks. And then you can wash your clothes if they're soiled after that. And
Check your dogs,
And
because
your
dogs do,
dogs, yes.
dogs can get
Yes.
Lyme disease.
Yes,
And it's actually quite
absolutely.
debilitating in dogs, so please. I have a question.
So we have, also, we did some train the trainer on Stop the Bleed, and we've also presented, Until Help Arrives Again at the library for the library employees on their workshop day, in collaboration with the fire department and the Burlington Police Department. And also, I believe that we are working on something coming up as far as that's concerned with the kits. So trying to get some kits together, Stop the Bleed kits.
Very good. You have another question?
I do. So I saw your hygiene talk.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
So,
You're turning red.
Paused at the wrong
Wrong
time.
time.
Yeah, you did.
Hold on to your,
so there is a slide, I'm looking at it right now, the bad grooming habits. Where did you get this information? Because
Okay.
it seems, for example, I did not shave today.
Yeah,
He is wearing a ton of cologne. But, in all seriousness, so I get the bathing and things like that, but, there are some folks who may not, because of skin issues, et cetera, be able to do some of these things. So, I can't remember the last time I washed my face before I went to bed, and I just feel bad. I feel bad about that. But anyway, I'm just interested, where did these come from?
well, all my references are on the last page of where I got this information, and also just to let you know that when I did this presentation is to the communities. It used to be Remark, so these are special needs
Okay.
adults.
Okay.
And I had to bring it down to their level. So we talked a little bit about good habits, good grooming, bad grooming, and other hygiene issues relating down to their level, so.
Do you moisturize?
Huh? Yes.
Actually, I put sunscreen on my face every day, and that's why I still look. So, yeah. I was just wondering because, so I understand reaching different crowds with different ideas. Obviously, hygiene is, you want to practice good hygiene, but I think common sense also plays a major role. And some people just don't have the ability, for many reasons, to follow some of these rules, so.
It was
just
very
wanted to-
interactive. They were very interactive. They had a lot of questions, and they knew a lot of these answers. And we're already, doing
No,
a
thank
lot
you
of
for
things on
doing
these
that.
slides
You know,
already.
it's a huge issue. We hope we teach our children how to do this from the onset. Thank you for that.
are there any other questions? If not, do I have a motion to approve the supervisory nurse?
So moved.
report?
Second.
I have a motion, and I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0. And last but not least, Director of Public Health.
So, just a couple of things. One of the things I've been working on is with Region 4AB Emergency Preparedness. We got a grant for $2,000 for Stop the Bleeding Control Stations. So, we're going to purchase several bleeding control stations that will be mounted next to the AEDs. In all the town buildings.
Great idea.
So I spoke to Paul Sagarino, the town administrator, about it. I spoke to various department heads about getting these in their locations in their departments. So we're going to be ordering 14 individual Stop the Bleed kits. So individual means there's enough there for one incident, one person, one tourniquet, bandages, things like that. And one 8-person station, which after talking to Glenn Mills and the facilities director, we decided probably the best place for that, because that's a more expensive one, because it's 8, would be at the Ice Palace, because there you may
Great
have
idea.
Yeah.
more incidents. So,
Great.
so at the Ice Palace, I still have to meet with, or reach out to, they have a board, I guess, that, it's a town-owned property, but they have a management company and a board that runs it, so I'm still gonna need to reach out to them, to talk to them about placing this next to their AED. So, and that's about $500 for that one 8-person kit, but, we thought that the Ice Palace would be the best location for that.
That's awesome.
So the other kits will go in, one on each floor of the Human Services Building, the Town Hall Annex, the library. The library now has, one AED, but they're gonna be looking into getting an AED on the 2nd floor. Cause we had that discussion, cause he was thinking that we should probably get an AED on the 2nd floor as well. So we'll have Stop the Bleed kits at both of those, locations.
They should think of an AED kit, a juvenile, a children's AED kit, and keep that near the children's area, and then have the other one, the adult area, is what I've been involved in another institution that did that.
I'll mention that to the director, yeah.
You mean having pediatric pads?
Yeah, you could have
Pediatric
pediatric pads.
I
Yeah,
understand.
I think they're in the
But you
AEDs.
have to be, in an emergency, you don't want to be hunting around and changing pads, they should be ready to go. So,
What this is a key in the AED, so it's a key that you take it right out and you put it right in the back of the unit.
That's-
So there's not really pads. What it does, it changes the jewels in the AED from adult to pediatric.
You use
And
the
you don't-
same pads,
You
right?
don't, you use the same pads, but
Okay.
it changes the jewels.
okay, good, that's a new one.
This is just a question on the 8-man, or the 8-person, Stop the Bleed. Is it such that you can pull out one and not compromise the other 7?
Yeah, it's like 8 individual.
Okay, and then is there a
Yes.
mechanism to replace that in timely fashion?
You would have to buy a separate kit and replace it
Yeah,
with
but
that.
will we have some here so they can call up and say
So-
we had to use 2, we need a replacement?
I did order 2 extras, so
Okay.
if one gets used somewhere,
Okay.
then we can replace it with a new one.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I'm
have
not
2
expecting a
extra ones.
huge volume of use,
Right.
but, you know, you
Or
do
got
want to be
damaged or something.
prepared.
Yeah.
Does this include the schools as well?
No, it does not include the schools. But I believe that this is something that the schools may be looking into. They're working with Mark Zayer from the fire department on doing this, so I don't know how far along
I would be surprised if they don't, it sounds like they don't have something already.
I don't know.
They must have something in the nurse's
Yeah, I would
office.
think.
I'm
I
sure,
mean, it's
yeah.
not an
And they have AEDs
ill-prepared
also.
office.
They have
Oh, yeah,
they have
yeah.
AEDs on the field.
But
yeah.
this is a mounted kit next to the AED.
That's
so
awesome.
For the public.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
the public can come up and use it. So we're gonna be ordering those, and then we're also gonna get an individual kit for the Board of Health. We're gonna keep it in our new vehicle, in the
Oh.
back. So we'll have
sorry,
a
in our
kit for
what?
that.
In our what?
I'm sorry, in our
When we
what?
get it.
When are we going to get it?
I talked to Tommy Lee at DPW in the DPW maintenance. He said he probably thinks it's gonna be around October.
What?
But
Thank you,
he's gonna
town
be
meeting.
Why so long?
ordering it. Takes,
It's when our new budget begins.
Well, that's July.
Now it
October's
takes-
like,
he can't order it until July, so,
it takes that
yeah.
long to get it.
Yeah,
And then get it painted.
yeah.
this, with the siren and.
I was gonna say with the
Yeah.
bubble on
Top.
top.
No, we're no bubble on top.
So, and then also too, I've been working on the MRC work plan for, next fiscal year. I will give you a copy of that in my next report. But one of the things that I put in that was also the individual Stop the Bleed kits when we do the Stop the Bleed training. So I've already talked to, we did it at the library, like Chris said, I've already talked to the, facilities director of at the DPW. He'd like to get it for the DPW guys. Once they do that training, they'll get their individual kits that they can keep in their trucks, and, you know, have it work with them or wherever they wanna do it. And the, Brendan Egan, the Recreation Department Director, I talked to him as well about getting, some of his people trained. Again, they did get some people trained, but they wanna get more people trained. So we'll be doing that all within the next year. One of the requirements in the MRC work plan is that you have at least one Stop the Bleed training. This is a new requirement. We've been doing Stop the Bleed now for a couple of years anyways, with the Stop the Bleed and the Until Help Arrives. So we did put in money to purchase more of these, or make up more of these kits for people who take the training.
And our chair has been advocating for the neck tourniquets.
Former chair. I have a question. Water treatment plant, water testing requirements and emerging contaminants with Christine Mathis. What are we doing with the water treatment?
So we wanted to meet with the superintendent of public works and the water treatment operator about where they were at with the getting onto the MWRA and the emerging contaminants being the PFOS or PFAS contaminants, which is a new contaminant coming up. We wanted to find out if they had tested for that yet or not. That if that is part of every 5 years or so, under the EPA, you're required to do testing for new contaminants, and that is kind of like the emerging contaminant of concern. So they had done some testing. We haven't got the results back from that yet, so we wanted to just make sure that we weren't, you know, that this isn't something that's coming down.
And the Board of Health does not certify the water, nor do we test the water. We only, as a board, as a courtesy, we receive the results. But I want to make sure that everybody knows, because I've said this probably every year for 30-plus years, we do not certify the water. That's done by another agency.
Really care where it goes.
Okay.
Susan, who does who puts together the BVRC newsletter?
I put it together, and I have staff members. The new thing kind of that I implemented was to ask our staff to do an article once a month. So everybody gets, for each month, it's a new staff member.
Cool.
And I've kind of melded that with also putting an article in the newspaper. So for instance, Sam did an article on the new regulations. I put that in the BVRC newsletter, and then it also went out in the paper.
Because the last few, I don't know if you made any changes to it, the last few have been really good. Yeah, I really liked them a lot. And does that go out to all the residents?
No, it goes only to our MRC members.
MRC
Our
members.
volunteers.
I mean, I know there's a cost to it, but I would like to see that even broaden the distribution of that somehow. I don't know.
Go on the website?
Yeah.
It does, it's
Does
on
it
our
go on the
website.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also post them on
Social media too, cool. Because the last several have been really good, last few anyways, have been really good.
I just-
Particularly, aside from the fact that you have a great picture on the back cover.
Yes,
Yes, that's right.
Let's take a look.
But no, seriously, the last few have been really good.
Well, I
And I
think-
liked the whole pool, thing.
Yeah, adding the staff to it,
Yeah.
I think has improved it.
Yeah, I think that's
Because,
great.
it's kind of difficult sometimes for me to write all those articles. But having each edition in
Yeah.
people's different point of views and perspectives, I think is good too.
Yeah, that's good. And the other thing I had was, I know we started talking about stormwater drain regulation, reviewing, and you sent them over to me, and I give you some opinions on it.
The
Sump
sump
pump,
pump
I'm
policy.
sorry, sump pump
Yes,
policy.
so I wanted to talk to you
Yeah,
about
so we
that.
should probably get back together, and I think we
Okay.
should probably do some lessons learned from Mancini Fox Hill Drive and incorporate those in
Okay.
any changes as well, but I like to.
Want to meet on that?
Yeah, or we can
Okay.
do it via email, whatever you want to do is fine,
Alright.
but I don't mind coming in too.
Okay, great.
And we had a meeting today postponed.
Yeah.
With the Conservation
With the
Commission,
conservation.
with the low-impact structures. Do we know when that's going to take place?
It hasn't been rescheduled yet.
Okay,
She's gonna send out another doodle poll, I think.
okay.
I
Make
bet
sure you
I bet
answer
it
it.
doodle this time.
I
Yes?
have one last question, nothing to do with your report. How are things on Ray Ave?
I haven't had any anything, complaints or anything about that, but I can reach out to the DPW and see how things are going from them. They haven't contacted me and said there's been any issues, so I guess I kind of assume that there isn't, but maybe I should reach out to them,
Yeah.
just find out how it is going and what if they're gonna change their plan.
The ice, you mentioned the ice palace, and
Yeah.
that's what spurred, that's what they've done, so.
Maybe no news is good news.
I would think, yeah.
Yeah. Be prepared for the answer.
Yeah, really.
Do I have a motion to approve the Director of Public Health report?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. And that's about it. If there's anything else anyone would like to bring up, if not, I'm asking for a motion to...
adjourn.
So moved. You move, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a wonderful summer. Be safe.
Oh, we're on summer
Oh, we
schedule?
go to summer
We're on
schedule.
summer schedule.
Yes.